Geez, I remember when I started the first webinar in English, and I was a bit excited, or maybe something more excited. I would say scared about speaking in English because as an Italian, you saw it when I was speaking about how to A, I, and E because we don't know how to do it correctly. But we are here, and right now it's something normal, I would say. And so let me introduce you. Geez, from Eyevestor, and I'm very happy to having you here because it's very funny understanding how we create this type of connection because of another guy from Seattle, and Augustine had the previous webinar, so speaking about the state of crowdfunding, so because you feel the report, and Augustine from Seattle, USA, create this type of connection, and geez, it's from Netherlands, and in Italy we say every time Olanda, but it's not correct, because it's Netherlands. So Jesus is from there, and I met him some weeks ago, some 2 months ago, was something like that, and from Utrecht, and it was super interesting the idea of the type of share funding. But I don't want to say too much about this. And geez, so right now I make a very quick introduction about you. So it's your time. Take your pace and present you, and let other people be able to connect and do stuff. So take for you 2 minutes about it, and then we will start with the webinar and all the questions about it. So it's your time, and present yourself.
Hi, Claudio. First of all, I'm very happy that we are still doing this in English and not in Italian, because it would have been a bigger disaster. But yeah, the way we met, I think, was beautiful and unique. It was actually because of the best friend of my cousin, who lived in Seattle together, and that actually shows the greatness of humanity, I think, on how we got connected while you were visiting in the Netherlands. Yeah, so my name is in Dutch Gijs Dalen-Meurs, and indeed I'm the founder of Eyevestor. I and then Vestors, and stands for equity you earn. So we never intended to be a crowdfunding platform. But to differentiate from what we do, we actually call it Sharefunding. And Sharefunding is a name that we registered. And in 2 words, our platform gives a share funding and engagement solutions to startups, companies, SME companies. And before that, I used to work for Citigroup, the American bank. I worked there for 15 years. And had the pleasure of coming to Milan very often because we had an operations center there as Citigroup. But I started Eyevestor because I really want to make a difference in the world. That happens when you get older. And I wanted to work on an equity society. My conclusion is that I believe that we live in a debt society. And that is in particular because of how money gets created. And so our platform is solely equity related, because we want people to have aligned interest together, and that's where a share is a perfect instrument for.
Yeah, and was super curious. I have to underline 2 different things. The first one is about you told about we don't want to be an adept crowdfunding operations. And it's super important because in Italy we are used to do equity stuff, but outside of Italy, the normal it's a debt operation. So
Yeah.
for us,
Yeah.
for our perspective was something like, yeah, that's normal. So anyone, everyone want to do a equity crowdfunding operation, but outside of Italy it's not like that. And the second part was super interesting, the idea, the approach. So I don't want to act like a equity crowdfunding platform with all the stuff related to crowdfunding, about the marketing, about the sales, about different engaging people, what we love. It's more than a different way to attract shareholders, starting from different waves with different sides, maybe something like a different angle attacks. And so You was you speak about you speak with me about you told me about the share funding idea, and I think it was something unique in the market. And today, and this is why this was the assist you were serving me. We have to have a very quick and light conversation about 12 plus 1. You know, as a marketer, every time we have to create some hype about what is the plus one type of subscription. So we are not sharing any screen. We are not doing nothing like this, but it's just about light conversation. And I will translate in Italian something just for let other people be able to understand something about the type of maybe just the title of the subscription. So different plus one, and I already do my own work, because this morning I asked G's, please can we do a bullet point about each one, so in this way I can follow without any problem. And so in my idea was I give you money and I get the shares back, so just one type of subscription. And the other 11 plus 1, which are, and now we started just with the first one and then the second, and it's your turn.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe a little bit of background to that. I started renting a house through Airbnb, and I realized how beautiful it is when people actually have the interaction with each other. And what I wanted to do was give that same type of liquidity that Airbnb delivers as an infrastructure to landlords and to guests. I wanted to create that for the SME people. So in equity, to provide the ability to transact in their shares. So we have a transactional platform. And so this is what you're just mentioning. In total, we have 12 plus 1 type of transactions in order to accommodate the entire life cycle that belongs to shares. So you want me to go through the other 11, right? The first one is sort of the invest one that you mentioned. We actually call that type of transaction, we call that an eco, an iVenture community offering. So the idea of the eco is that you offer one type of transaction, a number of shares for a set price.
Yeah.
In one big transaction. So, and so that's the first one, transaction that's most similar to crowdfunding.
That's something like that. So I offer you an eco, like eco, we will say in Italian, because you know every time I have to speak about every letter. So the first one is the standard one. So this is the price, and you get if you give my money, you can calculate how much shares you will get from.
Yeah. But we do offer some flexibility in that, and that's where the second transaction comes in, and we call that a direct eco, a direct echo. And that's where there is some more flexibility. So the value that gets transacted is still the same in it, but how the payment took place may have happened in a different way. So that's also a way how you can, for example, get a supplier to join and still give them some discount in a way. And actually, we are soon to be launching also another transaction that we will only be able to execute. And we call that a direct eco transfer. So there, the entire payment has taken place somewhere else. In the normal direct eco, there is still transaction charges that will be deducted automatically. Then we have two kind of capabilities for companies, depending on whether they are in a crowdfunding space or whether they're actually registering their company for internal purposes, for employee stock ownership, or other reasons, but that no crowdfunding is involved. So we have the ability to open up a marketplace where some kind of level of negotiation can take place, or as belongs to the crowdfunding, the European crowdfunding service provider regulation, you have the bulletin board. So in the bulletin board, you are allowed to give your order intentions. I have the intention to buy, I have the intention to sell. And so those are actually in total then 4 different types of transactions that we also offer. So a buy and a sell order in relation to the bulletin board, and a buy and a sell order in relation to the marketplace. So in the marketplace, the negotiation can take place. It's fully automated. It's anonymized. And there are certain conditions on each of the type of shareholders that are involved that are also included in the marketplace and how it operates. Another thing that you can also organize in the marketplace is that the iVenture, the company, can actually set a certain fixed price for the marketplace or a bandwidth within that price. So if your mid price is 5 and you give 20% room to negotiate within, then you are still allowed to sell for up to 6.
Sorry for interrupt you, but this is the main idea. We call it as something like a pledge. Pledging money, so it's like I will give you money later when I will be able to do the transaction, and this is the same idea, probably something like that, because it's like I'm saying I would like to take the shares here, and I already took my coffee, so coffee brothers here.
I know I'm according to Italian rules, I'm probably no longer allowed to drink cappuccino.
Oh, you must do within lunch is possible, but you can see the difference of the sides of the coffee because mine is super short, And so sorry, but I was saying having different types of transaction let others be able to interact as you told us in a different ways and created different levels of rewarding also, because if people can interact in a different way, I can give out different type of interactions, different type of marketing actions, create a sort of leverage in a good way. It's not leverage in a debt way or something bad related to financial stuff. I don't like this. No, it's something like this. So this is very important. So go deeper and still digging inside it, because
I mean, so the idea was really to have different transaction types for different moments in the life cycle. And indeed, we actually forgot to mention, and we also have a vesting transaction type where you indeed pledge to give somebody a number of shares in exchange for whatever agreement you have behind it. So it's often used for employee stock ownership. And we have, again, another one that we didn't talk about earlier this morning, which we call a future equity reward. And so the idea of the future equity reward is basically that it's like an option or a safe agreement, but where the actual invoicing is extended to a later time. So there are very multiple ways to include different stakeholders in the register of the company as a co-owner. And so the marketplace and the bulletin board are really meant to be there to allow for secondary market transactioning. And that's really where we started with our platform, because we wanted to give the reason why the stock exchange is still so popular is because of the freedom to move, the freedom to get in and to get out at any time that you want. There is always liquidity in the stock market, in the stock exchange. And that makes it low barrier to actually enter. So it makes it easier to participate for people to do. And that was, and within the SME world, the small, medium enterprise world, non-exchange traded companies, that didn't exist. And that's what we set out to create, the ability that a company could basically create its own stock exchange under its own terms, under its own conditions, where they can decide who they want to participate, whether that's 10 people or whether it's 1,000 people, and whether they want to be private or public, or that you can request an account. So we accommodate all those different ways to cover the entire life cycle of that company and the shares of that company, and the ownership of that company. So we're also very flexible in accommodating different types of stakeholders that you just mentioned, whether it's your partner, a supplier, an employee, a large investor or a small investor. So you can give different criteria towards each one of those people, because it depends on which hat they wear. Right now, I'm an employee, and so maybe I'm allowed to have voting rights. But if I stop being an employee and I don't have to sell my shares, then I can still remain a shareholder, but I lose my voting rights.
Yeah, and
Does that make sense?
that
Yeah.
totally sense. I think it's brilliant because do a better work and creating a better market for the secondary, it's always a good idea for pushing the primary one. So thinking about if someone told you, okay, geez, wanna buy a house in Amsterdam maybe, but you cannot resell it.
Yeah, then you won't buy it.
You will not buy. You will say, okay, I think I will rent it, and I will pay a flat, just the flat, and it's done. And maybe thinking about the same stuff for the car. What about getting a car, but you cannot resell it? Maybe I will not do it. So this was the same problem with when the ICO, so like the tokenization stuff started, because people interact with the ICO. We are not thinking and speaking about the utility token. So the problem, the scheme side, it's not about that. It's about they were not able to resell the shares, the token in that moment, and in the not public markets, we have the same problem here because people don't know where they can resell the shares. In Italy, you can do it directly just on the platform when you raise capital via crowdfunding, equity stuff, and stop. Yeah. But you know, everyone in a crowdfunding market are aiming for having this type of transaction in the secondary market, because in this way people can buy more shares because they know how to resell them, and it's possible. Thinking about just going on your in Italy, we are developing this stuff, and with the new regulation, we can resell directly from the bank, the bank account. So that's 100% secondary market for sure, and I can't wait to see what it means for the European market, how they will manage something like that. So I think you're doing it in a very brilliant way, and I don't know if you know it very well or not, but I'm super flat every time. So when I say you are brilliant, it's for real. It's not something like, I don't think for this in for.
No, but I mean, it's part of my background. When I worked for Citigroup, we were providing platforms to other banks, in particular also in relation to retail execution, settlement, and custody of shares and bonds and funds. So for me, this was normal, but indeed, I've realized a lot that the way crowdfunding has been is very single level. You can get in, but you can't get out, and you can only get out at the big exit. And unfortunately, the statistics are always that 65% of what you invest in initially in a startup, you will never get your money back as much as you initially invested. So the ability to have will only help those companies that they can create that level of liquidity. And I think the example that you just gave is of the house and the car is a perfect example, because everybody will see and recognize and understand that. And because what I always say is, if there's no liquidity, there is no value. And that's basically what you gave a very tangible example of. Yeah.
In Italy, we say every time, speaking about stuff in a bread and salami way. So very simple way. Speaking like so, comparing with the market, with the market of cars, it's something where which everyone can understand directly. So because every time in the financial market,
but being a banker, when you're a banker, you learn a completely different language, and it's very difficult to then go back to normal talking language.
Yeah, and that's the real point, I think, because if you're doing it in a very complex way, people are not interacting with. And if you're doing it in a very simple way, yeah, it's complex behind it, but just to understand it, it must be super simple. Okay, so let's go deeper inside the different types, the other types of transactions. So we have the Bulletin one, and then we have others.
Yeah, we have so we have the buy and sell orders that we just mentioned in the marketplace and or in the bulletin board, and we also have a transfer. A transfer is when you allocate to somebody anything and the payment has not taken place through our platform. So you also use that to initially digitalize your existing register on our platform. Then you also use the transfer type. Then there's also the ability to do a buyback. The buyback is when the company is buying back from one of their shareholders, and so it goes back into the depot of the company, right? And one that is now a lot used because of the bulletin board is once the people have negotiated, they can use a direct sale transaction. So the direct sale means that I need to know your account in our platform. So you have given me your account. It's very similar to a bank transfer that you do on money in a bank account, and the payment takes place through our platform. So you have agreed your transaction outside of the platform, but within the platform, you're still gonna transact the order. Because that's the only way how you can update the actual register of the share register that you're maintaining and in the platform.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking we are waiting for the last one, but we can go straight because at the end in our article in the website on the website we will give all the type of different transaction and a very a summary about that. So another type is this one, and because I have my sort list, but I don't know if you're following the same one, so I will give you.
No, I'm not.
No, for sure.
Tell me.
So
No, so I mean the two that we didn't discuss earlier were the IFR, the future equity reward one, which basically means that the transaction. So you and me have an agreement that I give you already 1,000 shares. But we have also agreed that you will send the invoice for the shares at a later stage because we both don't want to pay taxes for it. So from a bookkeeping perspective, they're still in my depot, but I give them to you in your account, but they are time locked.
Yep.
So they are locked. You cannot do anything with them, but they are recognized for you as the type of shareholder that you are. So if you have voting on those shares, then you already get the ability to. They will be accounted for in the voting, as an example. And the only thing that you need to do is you need to. If, for example, I've paid you those 1,000 because you've done some work for me,
yep.
And we agreed that I'm not going to pay you in cash, but I'm going to pay you in shares. But you also say, yeah, okay, but I'm not 100% sure if those shares are already worth a lot of as much as that we have agreed as the price per share. Because the marketplace is not open or I cannot sell them immediately either. So we postpone the actual invoicing for the activity that we've done together. So that's the IFR. It's a bit similar to an option or a save agreement.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's another way to create an option for a work for equity.
Correct.
That's the idea.
Yes.
And thinking about in Italy, we can you can create a scheme, a financial scheme, because you can you can subscribe or get your own shares as a company, and the first pre-money, and probably it will be €1, something like that. Not €1, but at the minimum level. And then after, for example, something like the third round, you can use them to resell or to invoicing someone, but at the later stage of post-money valuation. So that's super important because you created your own asset class, and but you subscribe it at the first moment as a level 1, and then you will resell it at some million, probably something like that.
So exactly that works the same in the same way that the people will only send their invoice if they are in the money. And if they have sent their invoice, then the company will release the IFR and it becomes a normal share. And so then they can actually sell that share. So they're basically exercising the option at that moment, and you would only exercise the option if you're in the money. So that's how that works. And the vesting transaction is again another version of a transfer, is where you say, okay, I give you 1,000, but I'm going to give it to you in portions of 100 every month. So for the next 10 months on this date, we've agreed that I would give you 100 shares each time. And I mentioned shares, but in our platform is a bookkeeping platform for any type of unit. So it doesn't necessarily only have to be shares. They can also be safe agreements or options or convertible loan agreements. The only requirement that we have to it is that it needs to be with aligned interest. So that way that it cannot be a debt. A debt type of instrument, like a bond or.
I think so. If you think about different type of transaction, we would say 13, the famous 12 plus 1 type of transaction. You can create them for each type of different asset class. So with the shares, and then with the safe, and then with the convertible note, and then with the others. And I'm thinking about with the new European regulation and also with the DLT. Wow, I didn't tell you nothing about DLT.
No.
Yeah, it's about the tokenization under the same regulation in Europe. Switzerland already do it. So we will see about the debt part. It's not about the equity stuff. So you can tokenize every type of instrument, and you can sell it to the retail market. So thinking about how many, and I'm coming from the streets, so I would say how many fucking type of transaction you can create with any type of instrument. So you have to think about, probably in the non-regulated market, not in the public one, you can have more fantasy, probably something like that, more imagination for understanding how to promote your company using that type of financial instruments in a very marketing way. Because we are speaking about marketing and sales every time as a turbo crowd, so I have to put the effort on it, but it's super important to share this idea, because it's always difficult and complex understanding this stuff for someone who's starting from scratch. But the goal is understanding the difference between revenues and costs. It's a profit, but you're creating something more. That's the meta level. So with the meta level is the value of your company, and you can monetize it, get paid for this type of growing of your company by using this type of transaction, and understanding how to promote them is the way you are speaking here. And I think this is the main important thing to understand to someone who is starting a new business, because I think this is my idea. And
I mean, you're right. I mean, right now our platform is a lot used for crowdfunding purposes. Initially, the initial need comes from companies because of crowdfunding needs, but then the companies are constantly amazed and surprised about what else they can do with it. And we would love to turn that around, because companies should always start thinking about digitalizing their equity from the day one that they actually get started. And the actual entity type is a very important one too. If you're going to be a trust, or if you're going to be a limited company, or if you're going to be a cooperative, or if you're a combination of both. So in the Netherlands, most of these companies are a limited company, but in the Netherlands, it's restricted to transfer ownership without a notary in a limited company. So we put a cooperative or a sort of trust office above it, from where that transfer can take place without the notary involvement. But each of these entity types have their own DNA, and they actually have an influence on the culture and the structural behavior that you want amongst all the different stakeholders that you actually get involved, and how you can use it for marketing purposes. In my belief, and that's why we call it a share funding and engagement platform. The engagement is all about that marketing, is all about making sure that your customer can become a co-owner. And if he is a co-owner, then you should make sure that he's your ultimate ambassador. Because again, the interests are aligned, right? People have the same, they want both same success, because with that success, the value increases, and profit shares can be distributed.
Yeah, and I think it last time, my life is super boring. You can imagine it. I was looking for something related to how Fang, or right now we are speaking about GAFMA, so Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, and stuff like that, are using gamification with the shares to get other people related and engaged with the company, and also with the so the employees are creating a sort of labyrinth and a game inside the company to get something more, and you can get your profit if you're staying here for example 5 years straight. You cannot go outside and something like that. And everyone thinking about Google can imagine something, right? But you can do the same for real. You can do the same with a non-public company. And so it's a type of business for a lot of potential people. So thinking about it's a business for the employees and the stakeholders in the same way. Then it's a business for you as a platform. It's a business for me because we have to promote it, because it's another angle of the attack for thinking about your customers will be your advocacy part. So they will be promoters of your business more than just being a simple customers. And also with the the others in your company, they will push it because they want to get more bonus, more shares and something. And
it's a bit like the 1,000 true fans concept, right? If you have 1,000 true fans that really talk or think about you on a daily basis, then the rest will go by itself, right? And that's what we should aim to establish. And if somebody is already your customer who buys your 200 euro shoes, but at the same time is happy to invest 5,000 euros in your company as a share owner, then you know that's, I don't know, 25 pairs of shoes, right? So so you need to understand that there is a lot of faith that's being given to you at that moment in time, and you should engage that person optimally. You should in the morning think about the message that you want to relay to your co-owners, and not about the Instagram post that you want to make. Because if you give them the message first, then they will subsequently see that message on Instagram, the chance that they will like it or repost it is a lot larger. And so it's very very basal and common. And that brings us maybe to the 12 plus 1. The last transaction type is what we call, we have I think quite an intelligent subscription module. So you don't need to do your subscription in your MailChimp, but you actually have it directly into the platform of where people can subscribe their interest to actually transact. And we have created it in such a way that there is the ability to subsequently fully automate the ability that you can then give somebody after they have subscribed. And then at some stage when you say, okay, now I have enough subscriptions in, I'm ready to do my funding round, that you can automatically send them an email and with the message, I've created an account in my environment right now. So thank you very much. You're welcome in my account and you're now allowed to transact. And by the way, I also created a transaction for you. The only thing you need to do is to pay. And so that's how easy it is for people to subsequently from that subscription to actually become a co-owner, and overall that process only takes a few minutes. I mean, because of the crowdfunding regulation, if they aren't on our platform already, they still have to do their the sophisticated investor test that takes place, and that's why it takes a few minutes longer. But traditionally, this process was able to be done in 2 minutes time. You were a co-owner in our platform, in the platform of the company.
I was thinking about, if you look at my face, I was something like, okay,
Yes.
because you are, I think, just one step away for creating a software as a service, software as a service model subscription, but as a shares for the company. Because subscription is a type of you interact with someone, but the recurring revenue, like something like that, will be the next level. So
so I call it subscription, but it's a way to allow registration for your interest so it's without a direct commitment, the ability to make the investment. Yeah, and but what you're saying from a subscription perspective is certainly something that we are also looking into, but actually the demand for it hasn't been that big so far. But coincidentally, about a month ago, I did get the request to allow somebody to subscribe, so you can take a direct debit of somebody's account of 100 euros, and then and they get in return, for example, 2 or 3 shares for that.
Yeah,
that's a recurring perspective. Yeah,
cool. So that's good. And just for closing, because usually I'm going in a very shorter way to do this webinar, but when I am in Matrix, I just don't care. Nothing more. So you're speaking from the Netherlands perspective, because you're from there, and but right now we are using the the new regulation, HESP, I would say.
ECSP,
regulation in Europe.
I call it expert nowadays.
So I think
for people.
I think the main part is understanding the different regulation between the limited companies are managed by other countries. But with the new regulation, you can create a service for other countries to open it, for example, in Netherlands, and then manage it in this way, because they can invest directly in the company.
Correct. So, I mean, on our platform, from an investment perspective, I don't think that much has changed. We already had, I think, about 60 different nationalities that used our platform. In particular, we have 1 or 2 clients. One of them is European Sleeper, who wants to bring the night train back, also wants to do a route to Barcelona and Milan there, but they're now going from Brussels to Prague. So they have a lot of trainees, people that love trains from all over the world that have invested into their business. But indeed, with the ECSPR regulation, the expert regulation, when you have that permission, you are allowed to operate your business in different countries.
And also sell the shares of your company in different countries.
And so the shares of your company in the different countries, and market them also in those different countries. An important element of that is that you also, if you market in Italy, that you also apply the Italian language. Now, we have a multi-language platform, but we also have more than 4,000 rules in that language, in our language files. So right now, we haven't translated that in Italian. That's an exercise we would have to do. But in general, we're completely open to go into other countries, and so there are other ECSPR members that are also allowed to come to the Netherlands,
sure.
and that also, yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
So, geez, I think we finished it. And what is a marketing stuff without a call to action? Nothing. That's just a waste of time. So it's your time. How can people interact with you, interact with Eyevestor? Give us, please, some tips, some hints. And we created the perfect call to action to understand better what we speak about today. And
I'm all but a marketing person, but slowly becoming one. I think eyevestor.com, EYE, so for the I, and then vestor.com. Again, it's for equity you earn. If you have an interest in doing more than just crowdfunding, and understand how important it is to turn those stakeholders, investors, get them to participate in your business and actually engage them for the future, then I think we have the ideal platform. Go to eyevestor.com and we can see how to accommodate. If there's enough interest from the Italian market, it would take us a matter of weeks, just focus to get it translated in Italian, and we'll ask Claudio to do it. So we can be live, up and running, and we can start doing more marketing together.
yeah, for sure. For sure. Great. So eyevestor.com, and for every Italian, you have to pronounce it in a different way. Eyevestor, super Italian.com. And then you will see all the call to action and all the useful links in the description of in the video and in the everything. And so we are just finished our webinar and another one. So everyone is invited to the next one in 2 weeks. 29th of December, almost the closing of the year, will be forever. And geez, I never skipped one. Never more than 2 years without skipping one. Also during the middle of August. In Italy, no one is working in the middle of August. Like in the 15th, I remember.
So you do it for
no one is working there. So thank you again for your time, Giz. We will speak about this more in the article, and then we'll create something more just to understanding better, go deeper, to dig more into this type of transactions. And then, so we will meet directly into eyevestor.com. So thank you again, Giz, for your time. Hope to see you soon, even in Italy. And next time you will be here in Milan. We will go outside to having a lunch together, or maybe a dinner together with all other interest, probably.
Thank you very much. I have certainly very good memories. I would love to repeat in Milan. I had the pleasure of most often staying in the Principe di Savoia hotel, so it was at good level.
Yeah, it was an average good level, I would say. Something like
that. At the time I was living in London, in England, and in Italy, they have different way of measuring the amount of alcohol that goes into a glass.
Okay.
So a vodka soda is more vodka than soda.
Yeah.
Whereas in England, they would measure it with a tool and then only make sure you get as much as they want you to get. So yeah.
In Italy, we have another idea about that. We have totally another idea.
Exactly. It's more with the loose hand. Yeah.
Just do it for yourself, and then you will. And then let's see. So thank you again for your time, Giz, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone.
I much appreciate it.